Right, so this is just showing you the different fields that the most common fields that we use in class, just as an example for you to get through. So that's, I said there's the O2O, it's the ISBN. In the ISBN, it's numbers only, no spaces or dashes. That's right. I got up to 082 and I've already got the indicators written in there as 04. So what I did, I went to here. So that was at 100. Put it back to 100 when I first came back to it. So the quick way to go into 082 rather than going through all the rigmarole I went through before is just to cross out the 100 and put in 082, and then there we have it. So we can see we've got the first indicator 0 for a full edition, 1 for abridged and 7 for other, and the second indicator is a hash if we don't know, it's 0 if it's Library of Congress have given you the number, and a 4 if it's from some other agency than Library of Congress. There aren't very many subfield codes, we just mainly use the $A and sometimes the $2 if it's a different edition or something. Or, you know, we can say that it came from edition 23 or whatever. Down here are examples. So this first section is the examples of the indicators. It's when you use it, 0 for a full online, 1 for an abridged and 7 for an online edition specified in subfield $2, which means that you have to have a $2 in here somewhere. And the $2 is 5 NOR, whatever that means. I've got no idea. Whoever got their number from that will know. In this one, that's the first indicator. In this one, the second indicator, we've got a 0 for it was assigned by LC. So we can see there's our number, 975.5, 4252. The slash means that's where you can break up the number, and then it goes on to 022222. And the $2 says it came from edition 22. And in this one, it was assigned by an agency other than Library of Congress. So that could be you, or it could be that you got it from the front of the book or whatever. So in that case, you don't need to have a $2 if you've got the 4, but you can do to say this is, we got it out of edition 22. That's what that says. The 22, the $2 is in bold, and then the 22 is the number of the edition, and the Dewey number is 220.47. Then there's the other subfield code. So really, I'm just showing you this is the way to come in and read it and look at it. Knowing that, you should be able to then go into and do anything. No, I'm joking. We'll go back to my little thingy here. So our main creator. Now this one has to be a creator, and I can go into RDA or whatever and show you that they don't consider an editor to be a creator. So you won't ever have the editor as the main entry. You will make the editor, you'll give them a 700. Now the 100, we've got an indicator in that first position that I just went through that, didn't I? Yep. They're the main ones. Sometimes there'll be a $Q if we've got their names in brackets. And the rules over here about the field ends with a full stop. That means the last thing that you put in there, if you only have their name, then it ends with a full stop. If you go on and have the relationship designator, which you should do, then it should have a full stop. The 245, we've got two different indicators there. So what I've done is I've put the colon and the stroke, I've already put them there just to remind you that they sit there so you don't have to stop and think. When you put in the title, if you don't have a subtitle, then you just go straight to the stroke before the statement of responsibility, or the dash, whatever you call that. If you have a title followed by a subtitle, then you're going to have the colon. That's why I was saying before, you think of it as a symbol, don't think of it as punctuation. So, you know, you're not going to have title, then the title always ends with a semicolon, with a colon. it depends what comes next as to what that symbol will be. So I've put the symbol at the beginning there so that you don't have to think too much about it. But you do have to remember to put it in when you're up to the bit about putting it into Library World. Okay, the variant title is when the title could be put in a different way. Sometimes it's if there's a different title on the cover that's on the title page. Sometimes if you're doing a video or something, they'll have a different title on the cover that's on the when the video starts playing. So there's those sorts of things. If we go into MARC and have a look at, well, first of all, I'll look at 245 because, you know, you're always going to have a title statement of responsibility line if you have nothing else. And this is English, but what it means is something you might not understand. So the first position, it's whether it's an added entry or no added entry. And what that means is, in simple terms, if you have a personal name main entry at the 100 or a corporate at the 110, then you don't need to put in the title doesn't need to be the main an added entry. Then the title will be an added entry. The simple way to think of it is if there's something in the 100, then your first indicator is a 1. If there's nothing in the 100, then your indicator will be a 0. If you need to know why, if you have a main entry already in the 100, then the title will be an added entry. If you don't have a main entry, then that means the title will become the main entry. Therefore, if the title is the main entry, it doesn't need to be the added entry, so it will be 0. Sometimes I think explaining it just confuses things more, so you're better off to just remember a 100, put a 1, nothing, put a 0. Okay? In the second indicator, this is what we call non-filing characters. So that's when you are alphabetizing something and we don't include words like the or an or a. If the title of a book starts with the, then the non-filing characters will be for, T-H-E space. If then if it's the something in inverted commas, ... then you're going to be THE space, inverted comma, ... So however many that is, that will be the number. Yeah, you can go up to 9. I used to think, why did I go up to 9 when 4 would be the most? But I have looked into it and you can have quite a high number when you think about it. So this title statement cannot be repeated. The title won't be repeated. The remainder of the title, that is the subtitle, or sometimes there might be a sentence or something explaining it. The publishers don't follow these rules. They make up their own, and we've got to make our rules flexible enough to fit in what they will do. The statement of responsibility is, again, not repeatable. No matter how many people were involved in the creation of this item, you don't put down $C more than once. What you do is, for every area of responsibility, you separate it with space, semicolon, space. So one area might be the authorship, another area will be the illustrations, another area could be the editor, another area could be, oh, I don't know. They do go on. They can be quite a few different areas and all in the one thing. And you separate them each by a semicolon. We've already discussed which names, how many names go in each area. That was sort of decided when you did the RDA and you did the description. You decided whether you were going to put one name plus 5 others, or name all of them, or however you're going to do it. But if you've got an author and an illustrator, you wouldn't just put the name of one plus one other. You would have to put the author in one area of responsibility and the illustrator in another area. So when you're saying and others, you can only put others that are in the same area of responsibility. Okay, and we come down here and we've got lots and lots of examples that you can look at. So that's got a 0 for the non-filing, even though it starts with a bracket. We only count the brackets and other sort of symbols if we've already got, what's it called? A pronoun? No? Whatever. You know, the and, the, those words. So you can see here it's a 3, the A-N space, so that we're going to start alphabetizing it or putting it in alphabetical order on the I. Some other examples where they have done that funny thing. You can see they've also made this for foreign languages. So we've got la. Examples. They must be in my book, not on this. Okay, so 246. I'll just show you the indicators on the 246 because they show you, that gives you an idea of what we've got with the title. So we can get the title, an alternative title from the cover or from the caption or from when we look at the video or it's on the spine. When you look at or portion of the title, so that's when we have headings like the famous one we do with the Cert 3 is Peter Russell Clark's Egg Cookbook. And then we put down a variant title of Egg Cookbook because people might just think of it as the Egg Cookbook, not think of the guy's name. So in that case, it would be a portion of the title. A parallel title is usually when you've got a title in a foreign language and you're putting it down, or if there's numbers in the title, because sometimes people will look up 10 Little Indians as TEN, and sometimes they'll look it up as 10. And sometimes the title might have an ampersand. So when the title has an ampersand on the title page, that's what you transcribe across. But people who are typing it in as to a search engine might actually type in the word AND. So then you will put in the variant as AND. While I'm at it over here, note no added entry, note added entry. So the added entry means that it's going to become a searchable field, and note means we're going to put in a 500 field to explain where the titles come from. My view is if you're going to put in a 246 field, it might as well be an added entry, or why bother putting it there? And I'm not going to bother putting in a note. I'm just going to use one of these indicators to say where it's come from, unless it's been particularly unusual or something, then it might be a 1. So I'm going to put in a note in the 500 to explain it. Okay, so that's just 246 briefly. You can look in more detail if you're going to be doing it. So 250 is our addition. Basically, well, we would have discussed it in RDA. If it says fourth, F-O-U-R-T-H, you write F-O-U-R-T-H. And if it's number 4 with a TH, that's what you write. Our place of publication, publisher date. Generally, when we're doing books, it's published. Otherwise, you can look it up and find out whether it's manufacture or distribution or whatever. And number 4 is when it's the copyright date. We're only putting in the copyright date when it's different to the date of publication. Our 300 is our pagination, illustrations and size. And again, I've put in the colon and the semicolon this time, because if you've got pagination, you've got no illustrative matter whatsoever, and you're going straight to the size or the height, then it will be, 500 pages, space, semicolon, space, and the size. But if you've got illustrations, then you're going to put in 500 pages, space, colon, space, and whatever the illustrative matter is. The important thing here is that the field is supposed to end with a full stop, unless it ends with a CM, because CM is a symbol, not an acronym. So you don't put a full stop after CM. It's a really crazy rule as far as I'm concerned. If you're going to end the field with a full stop, then it doesn't really matter what precedes the full stop, does it? But anyway, 336, 337, 338 is our content, media and carrier RDA stuff. Does anybody want me to do a chop up on what they mean when you use them? So the content is what it's made up of. Generally, books are made up of text. An audio cassette is made up of sound. You can have two-dimensional images or three-dimensional images or cartographic images, all those sorts of things. The 336 is repeatable, so we can keep on putting in 336s for everything, text or whatever. But the $A is also repeatable, so you can just put $A text, $A still images, whatever. And that's all from a controlled vocabulary that we use that, because those words are different to what we use up here in the $B illustrations, where we say illustrations or maps or whatever. Whereas down here in the RDA content, you say cartographic images. Media is what is needed to access the content. So to access the text in a book, it's going to be unmediated. You just open the book. If you're looking at an e-resource on the computer, so the content is still text for an e-book, you're going to need a computer as your media. But I can't remember what the term is. I'll look it up later. I don't know that I don't know if you actually say computer or you say computer card or computer drive or something. I don't know. And then the carrier is what that media sits in. So if we had sound and it was audio, I think I've just got to look up the proper words or I'll never. Right, so these are our words for content. You've got the cartographics, a computer program that would still be text for an ebook. Then you've got tactile images and three-dimensional forms. For our media, yes, so we can say computer for the media. That's what our electronic file will be accessed on. An audio for recorded sound, video for moving images. Then I've got this extra little thing here that says if we've used this as our carrier type, so if I've used computer for a carrier type, then when it comes to media, so that's the media. So yeah, these are the carriers for that media. So if you've said computer, then these are the carriers that you would have to put. So if I need a computer to access my ebook, it could be an online resource. You know, if I'm just going through, I don't need to have a USB or anything like that. It's just online, straight out online. There's a computer disk. I'm not really sure what a USB card comes under. But anyway, so your audio carriers could be an audio disc or an audio cassette. If you're cataloguing a soundtrack reel or an audio cartridge, you're really using old equipment. Anyway, so the series we've got our semicolon before the $V. So that's the numbering. So it could be a volume or an issue or something. And our indicator is telling us whether or not it's going to be. In this time, instead of saying added entry or no added entry, it says series traced or not traced, in which case it means the same thing. Are we going to have a special field to search the series in? And generally, I think if you're going to bother mentioning that there's a series, you will want to trace it. It's only if the series is just called report number 5. Well, having report as something to search is a little bit silly, because you could end up with a million reports. So, but usually it's the name of a series, and we'll put in an indicator to say whether or not we're going to have it traced or not traced. If it's going to be traced, then we need to add in the 830 field. I will show you. Oh, there, I've got the MARC bibliographic thingy at the bottom, the link. $4.90. We've got the examples. Generally, so it's 1 to say it's traced, then we'll put in the 830, and that second indicator is the non-filing characters, I think. But we can check if we want to. Can't be bothered right now. Uniform crime reports, but it says Washington just to give it a little bit more information. Usually, so in this one we've got reference works and reference works, but we're not. No, we are tracing it, 1, and we're tracing it for the 830. The series statement includes information that is not included in the added entry. So for some reason we've said that it's 1981, but we're not putting that in the thing here. But for us, for all intents and purposes, we'll be putting down the name of the series and the volume number and issue. And then in 830, we'll be doing exactly the same thing. Can anyone spot the difference between the two? Full stop. Full stop. So yes, the indicators are different, but basically when you're writing out the line, you just copy and paste and then put in a full stop for the 830. Now, back to the, not that one, that one. Right, so 500 are your notes. 500 is repeatable. The notes begin with a capital, end with a full stop, more or less sentences really. But like paragraphs, every new topic, you start another 500 field. So if we're going to say includes index, that's 500, and then we're going to say suitable for children, that's another 500 field. If we mention the word bibliography, then it goes into 504. So if you're going to say includes bibliography and index, because we've got the word bibliography, it goes into 504. But if you wanted to have them separate, you would put index in 500 and bibliography in 504. Confusing or stupid, whatever. 700 are for our extra creators. So 100 has one person. There's a 1 there for a reason. One person. Only one. The first one mentioned goes there in the 100. In the 700, it's everybody else. And each one has their own 700 field. Only one surname, only one date, only one relationship designator. There's always someone who crams all of them into the one thing. You can repeat it as often as you need to. That's okay. We can only have one 100, but we can have as many 700s as we want. And 710, I've put down the corporate author because it's not very often that the corporate author is the main entry. There are rules about that. The corporate author can only be the main entry when basically it's written about themselves, or it is the product of the whole place, representative of the whole place. You know, it's their annual report or their policies, codes of conduct, that sort of thing, then it would be them as the main author. But that's not really library material, so not often the main author anyway. So they're the main fields that we look at. There will be others. So when you come to do cataloguing for serials or electronic formats or whatever, there are different templates for those, and those templates have different, will have some extra tags in them. So it's a case of, if you're not sure about them, you can't find the answer in those resources that I've given you, go to this page, loc.gov, and have a look at what it says.